Hey everybody, I'm Andy, your self-proclaimed metal mogul, and this is the Randomiser. The Randomiser is a thread, I guess, that was started by my friend Metal Marty Mac a few months ago now. It's some threads, they're like a spark, they ignite, everyone jumps on them, and they die super quick. This one has been a really good slow burner. People have just been jumping on when they've had time to make a video, and they've been a lot of fun seeing people pull 10 random records from their collection as selected by the Discogs app, or by whatever means you have to select random records. Had a bit of time tonight, I thought I would do the same, and the idea of what Marty said in his original video was to, this can show warts and all, don't just show, cheat and show your 10 favourite albums. Well, I haven't done that, but I have done a little bit of cheating in here myself, in that I've got quite a sizable sort of indie rock collection that I don't basically show on the channel. I keep it very much to the metal side of things. And also it's in a different room, so it was a bit of a ball ache if they popped up to go and grab them. And a couple of them did pop up, so I skipped and chose another random one. So I've kept it very much to hard rock and metal, vinyl, 7-inch, 12-inch, CDs, cassettes, whatever came up. And there's a little bit of a mixture, but it was mostly vinyl actually that came up. So let me show you the 10 that were selected by Discogs for me. First up, The Cult, Electric, from 1987. This is on A Beggar's Banquet. Not a label I really associate with the sort of music that I listen to. One that is actually very much, I have lots of albums from in my indie collection. But I have always been a big fan of this album and the Cult itself. Love is probably my favourite Cult album, but the first 2 or 3 albums are absolutely fantastic. I don't need to put this one again. This is one that I revisit regularly, so this will go back on the shelf quite happily, knowing that it will come out for another spin in future. Second album that came up, Tyranny of Souls by Bruce Dickinson from 2005. Probably my favourite Bruce Dickinson solo album. I just think it's fantastic. It's great songwriting. He sounds superb, and Navigate the Seas of the Sun, which isn't really a rocky song at all. It's just such a beautiful song. It's probably my favourite song on this album. It's a gatefold. These are the editions that were reissued recently in the box set. I missed out the box set, so I've been picking these up slowly, but they're harder to find now. I'm missing 1 or 2. Bruce Dickinson wasn't... His solo stuff I didn't really jump on at the time, and it's not because he left Maiden and I was all upset and boo-hoo and all that, but I just wasn't listening to much rock and metal at the time. What I didn't realise when I picked this up was this was actually released in 2005, so that was between Dance of Death and A Matter of Life and Death. Lots of death. So I hadn't a clue until very recently, probably like last year or so, that Bruce was still doing solo stuff while he was back at Maiden. So that was sort of a pleasant surprise. But brilliant album. Brilliant album. It's Roy Z who co-wrote a lot of the songs and produced the album. Great. If you've not heard that album, I thoroughly recommend it. It's a fantastic listen, one I revisit quite often. Number 3, AC/DC, If You Want Blood. I think this is one of 2 live albums that popped up. I'm a live album guy. I do like a good live album. This is a single disc, OG Atlantic Records, so you will see obviously Black Bible from 1978, classic Atlantic label. This is my go-to period for AC/DC, really. That's late 70s. Bon Scott on vocals. Not against Brian Johnson at all. I do like a couple of Brian Johnson albums, but I'm not a massive AC/DC fan. I don't not like them. They're just not a band I gravitate towards very often, but a decent live album nonetheless, and one that's happy to have in the collection. Number 4 that came up was one of my OGs from when I was a teenager. I probably caught a quick glimpse there before I show up anyway, but Eat 'em and Smile by Davy Lee Roth. Even before I knew he was in Van Halen, a sheltered childhood from a rock and metal education point of view. I had this album and I loved it. It was all metal to me back then. This clearly isn't anything you'd probably describe as anywhere near heavy metal, but it was all metal back then. For the brilliant intro with Yankee Rose and Steve Vai's on this album with the talking guitars, I was absolutely hooked. And it's kind of an easy listening rock album. Some good, really catchy moments in it, but honestly, I could never see myself parting with this album. It's one of my originals from when I was a teenager, and I'm happy that I've still got the same copy. But yeah, what year was this? 1980. I haven't got my glasses, so I need to check. 86. Yes, that's right. 86. Black vinyl with Steve Vai, Billy Sheehan, and Greg Bisonetti on vocals, on bass. David Lee Roth on vocals, of course. There's the custom made. I love that label. That's fantastic. Cool, great stuff. Number 5, got it. Piracy, the second album I think from Zed Yago, Yago Pilgrimage. An album I know is really good. Absolutely superb album, and I think I even prefer this one. Is it Jutta on vocals? Is that a name? I think I even prefer this one to the first one, which is probably better known. Yeah, Jutta on vocals. But I'm looking at the songs and I'm struggling to remember the tracks. It's one of those albums I'll put on and I'll sing along to, but when I look at the song tracks, I don't know. So this one will stay out. There they all are. But yeah, great heavy metal with a slightly piratey theme to it. Brilliant though. Do check out Zed Yago, Yago, whatever, if you haven't. Compilation popped up is for the next one, and it's one of my Music Foundations. I have all the Music Foundations 80s compilations, and this one is quite an eclectic mix. It came out in Music Foundations. They never put the dates on Music Foundations one. I'm thinking looking at the track listing on here, it's probably around 86 as well, and it is 86, but this has got quite a mix on it. So there's the cover, A Nightmare on Carnaby Street, Inside the Gatefold We Should Have, yep. The covers from the albums that the songs come from. But how often do you get compilations with both Exodus and Striper on there as well? And then the difference between the likes of Agent Steel and Michael Furlong here at the bottom. It's chalk and cheese in terms of musical styles, but yeah, Music Foundations used to put out every year or two a compilation of songs from the albums that they just released. And why not? Let's have a look at that. Patrick Swayze. Beautiful. Might leave this one out. While since I've spread any comps, I tend to go through, I've got, must have about 40 or 50 comps, go through and just have a session where I'll just play a lot of them and then they'll go away for the longest period of time. Now, one of my favourite albums of all time. Delighted when this one popped up. This is the debut album from Tigers of Pan Tang from 1981. I'm struggling here because I've realised I've picked out the reissue. This is a German, this is 1980, sorry. This is the German reissue that I have with the titles in red rather than yellow. The same track listing, everything else is similar. otherwise, but classic new wave of British heavy metal. Badger Badger is a very amusing name for a song. It's a always sort of smile rather cringingly when I hear that, but Jess Cox on vocals. Such a shame he didn't last more than that one album. I would love to have heard how they went. Tigers are a band for me that every album they released, certainly in the 80s, just was not as good as the one before it. They've reformed, they're back up and running, and the new stuff is really good. So definitely check out Tigers if you haven't. I used to buy that album wherever I found it. It was a staple in a record shop. If you saw it, it always used to be about £5, and I would buy it and I would send it out as VCLT. I've not done that for years and years now. The last time I saw this in a record store, it was like 15 to 20 quid, and that's just the craziness of the hobby that we have now. That albums that they're literally in 5 years, it's increased sort of 4 times in price. Number 8, I think we're on. Now this is an album that's also probably going to go straight back on the shelf because I'm not ready to dive into it again. It's King's X and Gretchen Goes to Nebraska from 1989. Now King's X are the kind of hard rock, proggy, a bit of funk in there as well. I believe this is a context. That's not right, Andy. Concept album. It's on Megaforce, and if I remember rightly, the inner sleeve has too much to read. I can't even remember if that's the lyrics or the story, but there's all that, and then there's all that as well. And this album kind of hurts my head a little bit musically. Maybe I'm not ready for it yet. I've kept it. I've got a couple of King's X albums. I've had a couple of King's X albums that I've had for a few years now that I've not actually spun because of the reaction I had to this one. I'm not ready to dive into it again, but I'm keeping them because there's something there. I'm not going to be defeated by it. It's not something that makes me not want to listen to it, but I can't explain it. Clearly, obviously, I cannot explain it. Let's move on to something I can explain. The only CD that got picked out, which I was kind of surprised, I expected to be much more of a mix. This is SSS, Short Sharp Shock, UK thrash, hardcore thrash from 2007. This is on Earache. You can tell it's kind of hardcore thrash because there are 17 songs on here, and the longest one is about 3 minutes. As soon as this got picked out, I just threw it on. Literally just got the CD out to make sure there was something in here to show for the video. It's great hardcore thrash. There's lots of different thrash influences in there, but there's also a nice big slice of Suicidal Tendencies' first album in there as well. That kind of style to it, but much more thrash than that first Suicidal Tendencies album. I love on here as well that there's lots of sort of film sound bites on here as well. I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think the song, it's either Damaged Goods or Overlord. There's quite a lot of dialogue taken from the movie Scum, and it's just done in such a good way. Well worth checking out. But yes, delighted that one came up. That's one that I haven't listened to for quite a long time, but it's a real good sort of kick in the throat because short, sharp shock in terms of every song. Literally 17 songs, one after the other, but not that long an album. Yeah, great stuff. Check them out. And last but not least, another live album. Twisted Sister, live at the Marquee, 1983. This is a brilliant live album. This is how I wish most live albums would be. It's from, I believe it's from a couple of shows. It's on red vinyl. It's March the 5th and 6th of 1983. But it's made to sound like it's one long show. But what makes this album stand out? You see should be able to see the track list in there, although probably not. It's 83, so it's really early Twisted Sister stuff. Sin After Sin, Bad Boys, Destroyer, Leader of the Pack, You Can't Stop Rock and Roll, Shoot 'Em Down, Under the Blade. Oh, I love that song. But some of the tracks here are just literally Dee Schneider's dialogue with the audience. And I love that. That's what I want to hear in a live album. I want to hear the audience interaction. I want to hear the band talking. I want to hear the songs, of course. But this feels... You can close your eyes and you're there. And he's it's not one for the faint-hearted if you don't like a sweary album. But... absolutely fantastic. And when did this one come out? This came out in 2018. It's an official release, I believe. It's on Rhino Records. But honestly, great write-up in the middle. I bought this and then I watched the Twisted Sister documentary that was on either Amazon or Netflix at the time about their early days, and completely engrossed by it. And this album, yeah, as live albums go, if you can grab this, grab it, and just imagine some of your favourite bands releasing a live album like this with all the rawness and the audience participation in there and just the chat and the banter. Brilliant stuff. So there we go. That's my 10 random records from, as chosen by Discogs, of course. Thanks for watching, everybody. I think I may do this on a semi-regular basis, maybe once a month, because it is a good way to dive in and connect again with the connection. So thanks, Marty, for the inspiration. Check out a few of the other people that have been doing these videos. I just googled Discogs and Randomiser and caught up with a few just to make sure I wasn't crazy. I had seen a number of people do them, but yeah, a lot of fun. Thanks all. I'll see you again soon.